Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over Elementals number 15 from Comico from 1987. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is Random Access. It's a full-size, full-color comic book that I produce every month. It's actually an anthology, and I have other artists involved as well as myself. This last issue came out last month. It was number 34, and you can get these at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, and it's only $3 a month for a 20-page comic book. I don't know how you can beat that. It was me, Jamie Barrows, Jeremy Duncan, Swayze, Doug Roberts, Jake Quirk, and it has some really fantastic art by me and some of these other artists. And it's really a great buy, and it's great fun. And I hope you decide to support the project. You can also get those at comicscreatorsmarketplace.com. So we're talking about Elementals, another Comico / Comico comic book. And I never really I think I got maybe one or two of these. And I think I read some of the crossover with Justice Machine, but it was a comic book that was created by Bill Willingham. And he did the story and the art for the majority of the run, which I think it said it went to 87 issues. I don't know if that is, I think it was broken up into volume 1 and volume 2. And, but anybody that knows any more about that, please let me know, because I really appreciate it. So it was, like I said, it was done in 1987, and I believe this a newsstand? I don't think this is a newsstand version, which is where I got most of my Comico comics, was from the newsstand. It wasn't from the comic stores. So I think I missed a bunch of them because I think they probably maybe sold out really quickly. I'm not entirely sure why I didn't get more Elementals. Maybe my comic book haul every week was just filled up, and Elementals just didn't ever make the cut. I'm really kind of sad that I missed all these issues, because reading this issue just now, I really enjoyed it. But let's get into this, and we will discuss whether or not you would like it. So like I said, Bill Willingham is the story, but this issue, he's not the artist. Special guest penciler is Grant Mayhem. Inks is by Keith Wilson, and Kurt Musart is the colors, and Bob Pina is the letters. Elementals, the quick and the dead. So basically, I just read the recap of how they got their powers and stuff. There was this evil sorcerer, and he built this machine to gather up the 4 elements in the earth: air, water, fire, and earth. And he was going to use that to destroy the earth or take over earth or some, bad guy stuff. And so that upset the balance of the universe, and the elementals, the living spirits of the elementals, like the living spirit of fire and the living spirit of water, they brought back 4 individuals and imbued them with all of their powers. So they gave all of these 4 characters, all of their different fire, water, earth powers. And so they could do all this kind of stuff and use the powers. It's very standard comic book stuff. I think that I skipped Elementals because I was like, well, why don't I just read the Fantastic Four then? If I'm gonna read an Elemental kind of like thing, why wouldn't I just read Invisible Woman and the Thing and Human Torch? They're pretty much Elementals themselves. But really, the writing and the stories, Bill Willingham is a really good writer, and the stories are really original, and they have a lot of different things to kind of interject. So if you're like me and you never got into the Elementals, I would think about, checking a couple issues out. Maybe there might be something that you like about them. Very different kind of stories, and there's little things in here which I'll get into, that it kind of it's a little bit different, and it puts a little bit of a different slant on a very typical kind of story and typical kind of superhero thing. So it's really enjoyable in that aspect. But let's get into it, and then we'll go back and talk about the writing and the art a little bit. I'm not going to go back and talk too much about the writing and the art, because it's professional quality, Comico slash Comico, they were, they hired professionals, they had editors, and they had, all of these different people working on the books. So they were very professional looking books. The pages were all really nicely done and stuff. So I'm not going to go too much into the writing and the art because Bill Willingham went on to do, like I said, stuff for Marvel and DC and stuff like that. And I don't know who this Grant Mayhem is, but he's definitely a very competent artist. So we're in a Fish headquarters, Seattle, Washington. Don't know what that is. I wish they explained it a little bit. But I assume it's some sort of it's where the elementals hang out and do their elemental stuff. But later on, you kind of realize that it's a psychologist, and this is a bad guy, and he's being held for trial. He's going to have a trial, but they need to evaluate his capacity for understanding all of his charges and stuff like that. Just like any regular courthouse or court supplied thing. He was one of the bad guys, super henchman. I think that's the thing. If like I said, if I get any of this wrong, please correct me, because I don't know any of the backstory of any of this stuff. I know I Wikipedia'd it and I read it that way, but that is not the same as reading the comic book. It's basically like when you're watching one of those YouTube recaps of something. That should be an enticement to go and read the original comic book stuff. If you're seeing one of those YouTube things like I've saw the Thor, where they explained Thor, what was it called? It was something like the Unworthy. It was the Unworthy Thor that they were talking about, and there was a lot of stuff that I really thought I liked. So I'm looking for the trade paperback of that. But I watched the video. I know the storyline, but if you're going to do that, then just go get the source material. Just check it out. And there's a lot of stuff, a lot of YouTube channels that do that. They talk about the Civil War or Infinity Gauntlet or whatever like that. And then, just go check out the source material, because it's much better, much more in depth. So there's probably something like that for elementals, but just go and check out the original stuff. So it's a bad guy, and he's being not so much interrogated, but he's being evaluated. And he's like, English. She says, "Is English okay for you?" Because I think he's German. But he says, "English, fine. I know it." But then she's like, he is in some kind of daze. Like, you can see his eyes, his eyeballs are, rolling in the back of his head or whatever. He's just not there. He's not, comprehending everything. And that's when they talk about the drugs that he's injected with to keep him lucid, like he can understand what's going on. He just has a real hard time responding. But he's got superpowers. I don't know exactly what the superpowers are. I think he shoots laser beams out of his hands, but he also does other stuff. So he's lucid, but he's also in a drug trance. And the officer or whatever that's there accompanying them, he explains that he's got this gun that will shoot darts at him, and if there's any time that he gets too malevolent or too wound up or anything like that, he'll just get him another shot, and he'll get more drugs, and he'll just stay cool and calm and stuff. The psychiatrist doesn't like it. How's she supposed to do her job and evaluate this guy's psychology and his intelligence and all that stuff adequately if he's on drugs? How's she supposed to do that? So she's just kind of going back and forth with the agent, and the agent's like, if he got lucidity, if he got aware of everything too much, he could kill us in a second and wouldn't even think about it. And she's like, all right, I understand. But then he says, I need my suit will be better. So he's like in this trance a little bit because of the drugs, but he's saying, if I have my suit, then I can, I'll be a little bit better. What suit is that, Rudy? Don't you like the way you're dressed? I'm not Rudy Annihilator, because his evil name is Annihilator. Need Annihilator armor. So he's saying that he needs the armor, and that if he gets the armor, he can cooperate because he can't really function, and you can see him sweating and stuff. And she says, "Do you know what he's frantic about, Agent Fisk?" "Sure, he wants his Annihilator armor. If he's in his comic book suit, he's something special. Otherwise, he's just another psycho killer. Need my suit." So he's trying to get it through their heads that he needs a suit. He wants a suit, and he'll be able to respond a lot better. And she's like, "Well, is that possible?" And the agent says, "Well, we haven't really looked at it too much, but we don't think there's anything in the suit that is dangerous. It's his own powers. It comes from him. That's where he gets the powers. The suit doesn't do anything." So then it cuts to the elementals, and they're having one of my favorite things. They're having a training session. I love the danger room. What other training sessions are there? I haven't really read enough. A lot of No, that's not true. I've read a ton of comic books. I don't know of any other thing like the Danger Room that has like a training place. Anybody know any Avengers training rooms, gymnasiums, or anything like that, or Justice League, or anything like that? Any kind of training situations that they use, on a daily basis to keep, whatever. But these guys are just on the lawn, and then they're just kind of training. Elemental guy, Tommy, he turns into this giant rock creature, and so he's almost invulnerable and stuff like that. But this guy, I can't remember his name, and they're trying to teach him some fighting techniques in case he can't turn into the rock elemental. And he's like, "Why should I do that?" And he's really not taking it too seriously because he can turn into a rock elemental and he's virtually invulnerable. So why would you do that? Why would you? It'd be like telling Superman to train with Batman to learn karate or kung fu or whatever mixed martial art that you want. Why do that when you're nearly invulnerable? I'm pretty sure that Superman has done that, though, and he does know any kind of martial arts. Joe, does Superman know martial arts? Let me know. So anyway, he accidentally hits Tommy in the face, and he's kind of freaking out, and the kid's kind of freaking out. Although it wasn't hard, it was a little tap, and he's kind of just showing him that combat has lots of different directions, and that it's not just one thing that you should be looking for. And he's just teaching the kid how to fight, giving his lumps and stuff. But then the girl, she's like, he's not taking it seriously. She grabs the baton and she's like, "You want to know why we're teaching you this? And since you won't be able to turn into elemental, the earth guy," he's like, "I'll always be able to turn into him." And so she grabs the baton, grabs his neck, and she's like, "You can't do it, can you? You can't think of anything but trying to breathe. You're helpless. In a few seconds, you'll be unconscious." The wind guy, that's his elemental, his elemental power rather, tells her to stop, because she does choke him out, and he does flop onto the ground, and he's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And she gets wicked pissed at the girl. I don't know what her name is. Anybody who knows the names of these characters, please let me know. And she doesn't understand why he's being so emotional. And she's like, "You were trained for this. You were in the military." He's like, "Yeah, exactly. I was in the military. I volunteered for that. I knew what I was doing. He's just a kid." And she's like, "He's put into dangerous situations that could cost his life any time, any day now. He's got to learn to take it seriously. He's got to learn to defend himself." So this is very important, very important. They're having this argument. Instead of him saying, "Go F yourself," he says, "Rape yourself." That would not fly now. That would not fly now at all. I'm wondering what you guys think about that line. Is it worse than "Go F yourself"? But she gets really pissed off and says, "I think you had better leave for a while." Yes, I think I'd better. So, but I mean, what do you guys think of that line? "Go rape yourself," he says. I'm going to put that on Instagram and see what people think, because that is a very unusual way to say it. And like I said, it would not fly now. So he takes off, he flies away. And then you see that the Annihilator has his Annihilator armor back, and he's wearing it in the I don't know who that guy is, but he must be the boss of the agent or whatever, who's got the gun ready to shoot him, and he's going to take off or whatever. He's going to leave, but then they realize in short order that the Annihilator, the suit does do stuff. It has eradicated the toxins, the medication that he's on, so he's completely lucid. He's completely in his mind, right? And the guy's like, the agent's like, oh no, I better shoot him. So he shoots him with the dart. But because the armor, you're wasting your time, Agent Fisk. Your drugs are quite useless now. My armor was designed to regulate my power output for maximum lethal efficiency. So the agent is like, oh crap, this is not very good. So Annihilator smashes or uses his laser beam light powers or whatever it is. I'm not entirely sure. Somebody clue me in on Annihilator's powers. Blasts his head wide open. Again, one of the great things I love about this is that he's a bad guy. He's getting his due process. You never think about this. You never think of, Magneto being constrained in any kind of way, or I guess you do, because in the movies he's in that glass prison, and then Mystique has to go in and break him out. So it's kind of similar, but this guy, he's just like super powerful, and he's got to stay drugged up, and then he finally tricks them into getting his armor back, which does regulate the medication out of him, and then he kills somebody, which comic books, it's a deeper and darker thing. I know some people don't like that. Some people don't like the grittiness of like Invincible or anything like that, but I do. I think it has a place. I think everybody has a different opinion on this, but I think if you're looking at different places for different things, there's a place for Superman and where he doesn't kill. It's like I'm always seeing on the Instagram, Man of Steel was better than Superman 2025. You can like both. You can enjoy both. Both are two distinct different things. You can like the darker and grittier Superman, and you can also like the newer, more upbeat Superman. You can like every generation has a different Superman. That's why they got John Byrne to revamp him, because they thought he was getting a little stale. Every generation, there's a new revamping of Superman. They change him, they bring him back to different stuff. But you can like both. Just like you can like, you don't have to say I like Fantastic Four better than Superman. You can say I like them both. They're both the same. Same thing with gritty comics, horror comics, or rather just we're talking about superhero stuff. There's room for everything. There's room for the city, inner city, noir, Frank Miller, dark, deep stuff. There's room for the X-Men and their anti-racism rants and stuff. And just like there's a place for the Justice League with their cosmic adventures or whatever else they do. There's room for all of it, and we're all just in this comic book thing together. So that's my rant. So I'm sorry that I went. What's his name? The air guy comes in and into Fish. Scott. What's his name? Jeff. His name is Jeff. Air guy is Jeff. He says you're not scheduled to be here today. He's saying I come here to say I quit. But he's like, you can't quit. And then that's when all hell breaks loose, because this guy is throwing blasts of elemental, not elemental. He's not an elemental, but blasts of energy or whatever. I think that's what makes him fly. So they have this dumb little thing. I say it's dumb, but it's Jeff wanting to help everybody out, who's been injured and stuff. And this other guy, Scott, saying, go catch him. He's more important than that. And he's kind of like, all right, I'll go get him. So then he whooshes up in the air, chases after him, and he catches him. And this is kind of funny too, because instead of just grabbing him or whatever, he talks to him. He says, land now or I'll kill you. And so they just keep flying. You just don't get it, do you? I can do anything I want up here. I don't obey the laws of aerodynamics. I ignore inertia. Compared to me, you're about as fast as a slug with the maneuverability of a brick. Give up. So then he calls him a dumb S word. And so then some jets come in. They've been scrambled to take care of the situation, and they're going to fire on the Annihilator. And they kind of do. But Annihilator zooms in, smashes one of the jets, and then blasts a bolt of the other jet, and they both eject and are landing with their parachutes. But Jeff he wants to help them because one of them, their parachute didn't come open. And so he flies down, grabs him, lands with him, and he's like, "Where's the other one?" And the other one comes down in a fiery ball of flame. Everybody is crazy down on the ground, and they don't know what to make of any of this. And there's like debris falling everywhere. And this one guy is like, what's going on? Look up in the sky, it's a bird. And so I think that's like a little thing on Superman, but did anyone see the direction the other flying man left in? And this guy, he's just like freaking out. He's just, what? And he finally does point him to the right direction, and he goes after him. And Jeff does what he says. He creates this hurricane, a vortex. No, that's his name. He creates a hurricane, or it's a hurricane. Creates this hurricane, destroys thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in property damage. Hurts all kinds of people, maybe even kills a couple people. It's kind of like when Storm freaks out and causes all kinds of havoc. That's basically what he's doing. But he did it to Annihilator, and he's kind of happy. And he's like, property damage is blah, blah, blah. Completing the evaluation of, he says, he grabs his throat, says, still alive, too bad. So he's not so happy that he didn't kill him, but he didn't. Later on Montague, Long Island, that must be where the elementals stay during their off time or whatever. There he is. Jeff, what's your name that caused the ruckus before, says, quite a job you did. Yeah, wasn't it though? And come home, Jeff. So I don't know if they have a relationship or whether they're just friends or whether they're just, thrown into this weird thing together. But she tells him to come home, and he does, and that's how it ends. So there's a little bit of introspective. I like this, that I got to read an issue that wasn't jumped into a main big story arc, like the beginning story arc or whatever story arcs they did. I really enjoyed that because I got to see a couple of the characters up close and personal, and there wasn't anything big going on. That's what I love about the X-Men, is that so many of the issues are, them playing basketball and then something crazy happens, or them playing baseball and then something crazy happens, or just they're talking, their characters, they're talking, they're interacting, they're showing their emotions and stuff like that. That's what I really dig about comics and superhero comic books anyway. So the writing is perfect. I mean, Bill Willingham, he's a great writer. He's also a really good artist too. But I really love his writing. Everybody has a really fantastic, their own voice. I love his portrayal of the Annihilator being hopped up on drugs or on drugs or whatever. And, it was just very, very, everything's so super fluid and it moves along perfectly. The story and the pace of the plot just moves along really nicely. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading this much, much more than I thought I was going to. I don't know why I never read an Elemental before, or why I don't remember it, but I'm going to keep my eye out for Elementals, and I'm going to actually try to add them to my collection, actually. Probably from the dollar bin. I'm not going to go, spending $20 or $30 on the first issue or anything like that. But, if I see them in the dollar bin, I'm going to grab them. So I really did enjoy it. The art, this is the guest artist, and he does a really good job. He's not anything fancy. It looks a little bit old-fashioned, a little bit 70s, but it also kind of looks a little bit like some of the stuff that you would find in Sandman. Some of this really heavy brush work kind of stuff. Some of the things I did have a little bit of a problem with, like this. I'm not sure if I like this or not. I think I would have had him flying that way, even though it had the tail here, because it would be going that way, but that would lead you off to the page. This brings you back So you're reading it like that. So I'm okay with it. I think I just would have done it a little bit differently, but I really did enjoy it. The panel layouts, they're different. They're different sizes. They're different techniques. Lots of different orientations of the characters. Lots of close-ups. Lots of up close and far away characters. Their emotions. The action sequences are really nice. So yeah, I really enjoyed a lot of his art. It's not something that I would love. I would not call him in my top 10, top 15, top 100, maybe top 100, who knows. But very, very, very capable job, very competent, and I did enjoy it. Did not ruin the story whatsoever, and actually made the story flow a little bit, because if this had been done by a lesser talent, it probably could have messed up the story a little bit. But it didn't, and I enjoyed it. So I really kind of did enjoy the art and the writing. Which leads me to the review. What do I get this out of 10? As you know, if I give it a 7 if I would go look for more issues, and I will in the dollar bin. So that's a baseline of 7. Can I give this an 8? I can, because Bill Willingham's script is really good, and the artist does not drag it down. Can I give it more than that? I would say I would give it an 8.5. I could give it a 9, but the art just really isn't over the top, really great enough for me to give it a 9. The story and the writing and the plot and the dialogue are really kind of 8-ish, not 9. But some of the ideas are really almost worth a 9. But it's not part of a bigger scenario, a bigger story. So that's really kind of holds it back a little bit, being an individual issue. But I'm going to give it an 8.5. Can't give it a 9 for those reasons, and a couple other reasons that are just more like my own personal preferences for something like this. But nice wraparound cover right here. Not entirely sure why they did a wraparound cover. They could have done an advertisement here, and I wouldn't have been upset. But I did enjoy it. I liked it. I would get more. I'm going to start collecting elementals, as I said. And I'll get another issue and see if I like that, and then we'll see how that progresses. Let me know what you guys think about the elementals. Are you big fans? Are you not big fans? What do you think of it, and what did you think of it? Did you get it off the newsstand, or did you get it off of the out of the comic book stores? I really would like to know, because the age bracket usually for my videos are we're all pretty close in age, so I'm kind of wondering where you are on the newsstand with Comico, or rather Comico, and where you are with the comic book LCS thing, about where you would get comics. So I'm wondering about that. But Elementals number 15 from 1987. Again, 1987. So that's a pretty old comic book, and it's a nice one. It's good fun. I'm giving it an 8.5. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. This is the stuff that I do. I go over indie comics for black and white, color, from 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond, or wherever. I just love indie comics, and I love, anything different or unusual, or, something that is artistic and nostalgic, maybe. Then I'll check that out. I have like almost 400 other videos, reviews, and stuff. So check those out. Or give me a suggestion for something that you might want me to review. And if you're a comic creator, send me your comic and I'll review it. I'll go over it, and that would be great fun. Or you can always add it to the comic creators marketplace, which is the eBay of comic books. You can check that out. It's again, comicscreatorsmarketplace.com, and there's already 5 or 6 artists up there, and we're going to be adding more daily, and more comics, more artists, more fun. So check it out. Thanks for watching, and it's a Monday, so we've got a lot of stuff coming up, and as always, keep on creating.